The son of the late Libyan dictator, Colonel Gaddafi, will stand trial today on charges of killings allegedly committed during the country's 2011 civil war. The hearings are taking place in Tripoli as Libya has defied numerous requests from the International Criminal Court to hand Saif al-Islam over to The Hague. The authorities insist they will ensure a fair trial, but as RT's Politricks reports, many doubt that promise.
28 members of the former Libyan regime are facing trial. Among them, Abdallah al-Senussi, who was the former intelligence chief of the Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, as well as Saif al-Islam, who was the heir apparent and also the only Gaddafi son to be held in custody. Now, the charges they are facing include murder, inciting rape and kidnappings, as well as forming armed groups in violation of the law. The Libyan authorities are insisting that the men will get a fair trial, but human rights groups, as well as many in the international community, believe that this is not going to happen, that the authorities are actually simply incapable of being able to do this. Since the capture of the men, The Hague has repeatedly castigated the Libyan authorities for not handing them over to face war crimes as well as crimes against humanity. If the trial and when this trial goes ahead in Libya, it is in direct defiance of International Criminal Court rulings, and the court can complain to the United Nations Security Council. What is interesting is that it was the Libyan rebels themselves, before they came into government, that were at the forefront of calling for the United Nations to order the International Criminal Court to action. And this is what many analysts are saying. When the rebels were fighting the Gaddafi regime, they were very quick to curry favor with the international community, to call for the Gaddafi family to be put on trial at The Hague. But no sooner do they themselves come into power than they're turning their backs on the very same community that they were cooperating with. Very few people believe that Saif will get a fair trial. This case has already taken a very long time, and also the fact that they're not prepared to hand him over to The Hague does suggest that old scores with the Gaddafi family are being settled. This is being called the trial of the century, but even those who are trying to organize it are incapable of doing so. Politricks, RT, Tel Aviv.
Let's take a look at the International Criminal Court's pursuit of Saif al-Islam since the start of the Libyan revolution in February of 2011. Now, 6 months into the unrest, the ICC issued an arrest warrant for both Colonel Gaddafi and his son on charges of crimes against humanity over the deaths of political opponents. The war in Libya ended with the brutal death of Muammar Gaddafi at the hands of the rebels in October of 2011. But no investigation or trial into the killing has followed. The ICC then started informal talks with Saif al-Islam, urging him to surrender himself to The Hague over fears he would share the fate of his father. However, Saif was captured by Libyan authorities while trying to leave the country in November. Shortly afterwards, the government announced that he would go on trial for war crimes in Tripoli, rejecting the ICC's calls for his handover, saying it had no jurisdiction. In June, International Criminal Court officials were detained by a Libyan armed group for several weeks after visiting Saif al-Islam, as they were accused of conspiring against the state. Since then, Saif hasn't had access to a lawyer, and Libya sought to the ICC's approval for its domestic trial of Gaddafi's son in May this year, but that request was rejected.